You are now listening to the Yeshua Community. In this reflection, we're going to explain why we use the name Yeshua and not Jesus, and why that choice matters. It's not about being different just for the sake of standing out. It's about history, tradition, and respect for the Jewish world he actually lived in. Let's start with the basics. The name Yeshua is the name he was known by in Hebrew and Aramaic. When he was born, nobody called him Jesus. His family, his friends, his neighbors, and the people who listened to him knew him as Yeshua. The name appears in several forms in Jewish tradition, including Yehoshua, which means God saves or God helps. In the period around the 1st century, the shorter form Yeshua was common. It was a typical Jewish name. So how did Yeshua become Jesus? The answer is language. When the texts were written in Greek during the 1st century, they used the Greek form Iēsous. That was the closest form the Greek language could produce. Later, when the Bible was translated into Latin, it became Jesus. From there, it entered the European languages. But all of this happened several linguistic steps away from the Hebrew and Aramaic world he actually lived in. This doesn't mean that using the name Jesus is wrong. It's a historically developed translation, and we know exactly who we're talking about. But when we say Yeshua, we do it to bring the story back to its Jewish roots. The Gospels were written in Greek, but they are rooted in Jewish ideas, Jewish storytelling, and Jewish expectations of a coming king, prophet, or teacher. By using the name Yeshua, we remind ourselves, and our listeners, that this story did not begin in Greek-Roman culture, and it did not begin in later Christian theology. It began within Judaism. By using the name Yeshua, terms like Yeshuan or follower of Yeshua become something new and clear. It doesn't place us inside an old doctrinal framework. Instead, it gives us space to describe a way of life grounded in his ethics, not in doctrines developed long after him. It's also about clarity. Many people encountering our message for the first time find that the name Yeshua makes it easier to understand that this is not traditional Christian dogmatics. When they hear the word Jesus, they often already carry a whole theological package: the Trinity, original sin, atonement theology, and church history. Yeshua, however, points back to a Jewish teacher, an ethical reformer, a prophetic voice in a time of political oppression. It helps us read the Gospels as they were intended, as Jewish narratives written for Jews, full of symbolism and meaning, not as Greek-Roman philosophical treatises. Using the name Yeshua invites people to ask different questions. Not, what does the church teach about this? But, what did this Jewish teacher mean? What did his words mean in his own time? It's a way of peeling back layers of later interpretation and getting closer to the source. And finally, the name itself carries meaning. It was no coincidence that his name was Yeshua. God helps. It was a name of hope during a time of oppression, uncertainty, and messianic expectation. We want to return to the roots, to the story as it originally emerged, and to a life grounded in practical ethics rather than doctrine. It's not about linguistic purism. It's about understanding the message as it was intended in the Jewish world where it was born. Thank you for listening to the Yeshua Community. If this message was meaningful to you, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. May you walk in peace and blessings.